Hi there, and welcome back. I'm really glad that you're here again, because today's story is one of the most haunting and beautiful myths in all of Greek mythology. The tale of Pandora's box, the moment when curiosity changed the fate of all mankind. Before we begin, please make sure to like and subscribe, because this really helps the channel grow and keeps these stories alive. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the story.
When the world was young. In the beginning, before the age of men and the march of time, the world was young, a place of stillness and beauty, untouched by sorrow, unbroken by pain. The gods ruled from their shining thrones upon Mount Olympus, their laughter echoing across the heavens, their will shaping every breath of life below. The rivers sang with purity, the mountains stood proud and eternal, and humankind, newly born from the clay of Prometheus, lived in peace, simple and unknowing. There was no hunger, no disease, no shadow to haunt their dreams. They worked the fields without toil, they slept without fear, and their hearts knew only the quiet rhythm of existence. But among the immortals, not all hearts were gentle. Zeus, the great father of gods and men, looked down upon the world and felt a spark of unease and anger. He remembered the defiance of Prometheus, that cunning titan who had dared to steal the sacred flame of Olympus and gift it to mortals. Fire, the spark of creation, the power of knowledge, the light that separates man from beast. With it, mankind learned to build, to shape, to think, to dream. And in that dream, Zeus saw danger. He saw a race that might one day rival the divine. He saw arrogance growing where once there had been innocence. And so, as the embers of Prometheus's stolen fire glowed across the earth, Zeus swore that humankind would learn humility, not through the roar of thunder or the strike of his lightning, but through something more subtle, something beautiful, something mortal. Thus began the plan that would change the fate of the world forever. A creation born not from the hands of a titan, but from the will of the gods themselves. A being of grace, of charm, of irresistible curiosity. Not a monster, not a storm, but a woman. Her name would be Pandora, and through her the age of innocence would end, and the true story of mankind would begin. Part 1. The Anger of Zeus. After Prometheus stole the fire of Olympus and placed its burning gift into the hands of mortals, the heavens trembled with the fury of Zeus. The Lord of Thunder looked down upon the earth, and what he saw filled him with wrath. Humans, fragile, fleeting creatures of clay, now stood tall against the cold of night. They built fires that chased away the darkness, forged weapons, baked bread, and shaped their world with hands once helpless. They spoke with pride. They sang songs of gratitude to Prometheus, and in their eyes shone a light that mirrored the flame itself, the spark of knowledge, of creation, of independence. To Zeus, that spark was not wonder. It was rebellion. The king of the gods could not allow it to grow. Not after the war of the Titans. Not after the rebellion of his own kin. He had seen what disobedience could become, how quickly faith turned to defiance. But Zeus was cunning. He would not hurl his lightning upon mankind. He would not destroy what Prometheus had built with his own hands. No, his punishment would be delicate, deceptive, disguised as a gift. A whisper passed through Olympus. Zeus summoned Hephaestus, the divine smith, whose hammer shaped the very bones of the world. And with a voice that rumbled like distant thunder, Zeus spoke. Forge me a creation unlike any other, not of fire nor of stone, but of beauty. A being that will charm the hearts of men, and through her they shall learn what it means to suffer. Hephaestus obeyed. From the sacred clay of the earth he shaped a woman, her form radiant, her face gentle and pure. Each curve, each breath, each motion seemed touched by divinity, Yet within her beauty, Zeus wove a shadow, a quiet, unseen curse. The other gods came forth to bestow their gifts upon her. Athena clothed her in silver robes and taught her grace and wisdom. Aphrodite breathed into her an irresistible charm, the power to stir desire and longing. Hermes whispered cunning into her heart, the art of persuasion, the spark of curiosity. Even Hera smiled, though her eyes carried a knowing glint, as she gave Pandora the gift of loyalty and jealousy. When all was done, Zeus gazed upon this creation, this perfect, living trap, and smiled. She was beautiful beyond measure, gentle as the dawn, radiant as the first flame. But within her soul, curiosity glowed like a hidden ember, waiting only to be fanned into fire. And thus, with soft hands and innocent eyes, the weapon of Olympus was born, a gift wrapped in beauty and destined to unmake the peace of mankind forever. Part 2. The creation of Pandora. In the golden halls of Olympus, beneath pillars that touched the clouds, the gods gathered in silent purpose. At the command of Zeus, the divine artisan Hephaestus took to his forge, the air trembling with the sound of hammer-striking anvil. From the sacred earth he shaped a figure unlike any other, smooth and flawless, sculpted with the care of eternity. He mixed water with clay, and from it rose the first woman, her form glowing faintly as though touched by dawn itself. Hephaestus gave her shape, strength, and breath. He molded her eyes to shine like polished amber, her skin like ivory warmed by the sun, her hair a cascade of living gold. When he was done, he stepped back in awe. For though she was of clay, she seemed alive, as if the very world itself had dreamed her into being. Then, one by one, the gods stepped forward to bless her, each gift a marvel, each blessing a burden. Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, approached first. With a gentle touch, she breathed into Pandora the essence of desire, the ability to enchant hearts, to awaken longing, to stir emotion in all who beheld her. But love, Aphrodite knew, is never pure. Hidden beneath the sweetness of affection lay jealousy, vanity, and heartache. And thus, within Pandora, bloomed both beauty and the seed of sorrow. Next came Athena, goddess of wisdom and craft. She draped Pandora in garments of silver-threaded silk and placed a crown of olive leaves upon her brow. Athena's gift was grace, the wisdom of word, the steadiness of mind, the knowledge of art and weaving. Yet wisdom, too, carried danger. For with understanding comes awareness, and with awareness, the first spark of curiosity. Hermes, the trickster god, smiled as he stepped forward. He whispered softly into Pandora's ear, giving her the gift of persuasion, a silver tongue and a mind quick as lightning. But Hermes' gift was a double-edged blade, for where charm lies, so too does deceit. He planted within her the art of question and wonder, a restless thirst to know what must not be known. From the Graces she received elegance and beauty, from the Hours, harmony and voice. Apollo gave her the gift of song, Artemis, the stillness of the forest and the light of the moon. Even Demeter, though wary, offered her the scent of spring, a touch of gentleness, a reminder that life renews itself even after sorrow. When all had finished, Zeus himself stepped forward. He gazed upon this creation, radiant, innocent, and utterly divine, and smiled. "Pandora," he said, "the all-gifted, the masterpiece of Olympus." The name echoed through the heavens. Pandora, bearer of every gift, every blessing, every flaw. And as she opened her eyes for the first time, the gods felt a strange silence settle upon them, for in those eyes flickered both wonder and danger. a mirror of the divine and the mortal intertwined. She was not born of love, nor of chance. She was born of intention, a vessel of both grace and ruin, and though she smiled softly, unaware of her destiny, the gods knew what she did not, that within her beauty slept a power far greater than any flame Prometheus had ever dared to steal. Part 3. The Gift of the Box. When Pandora descended from Olympus, radiant and new beneath the golden light of dawn, she carried with her a strange gift, a vessel unlike any other. It was a jar, though some would one day call it a box. Forged by Hephaestus himself, its surface shimmered with colors that shifted like living flame. No mortal hand could have shaped it. It pulsed faintly, as though something inside was alive, breathing, waiting, whispering. Zeus presented it to her with a smile that held both warmth and warning. "This," he said, "is a gift from the gods. Guard it well, Pandora, but heed my words. Under no circumstance must you ever open it. What lies within is not for mortal eyes." His voice rolled like thunder, the air around him heavy with command. Pandora bowed, clutching the jar tightly, her heart fluttering between reverence and unease. The lid was sealed with divine gold, engraved with ancient runes, symbols that glowed faintly in the dark. Around it were carved scenes of beauty and terror, blooming flowers beside serpents, laughter beside tears, life beside death. It was a paradox made solid, a gift that felt almost alive. At first, Pandora was content to obey. She placed the jar in the corner of her new home and admired it from afar. When the sunlight struck it, it gleamed like liquid fire. When the moon rose, it seemed to hum softly, like the echo of distant voices calling her name. Days turned to nights, nights into weeks. The world around her was calm, peaceful, untouched by sorrow. The air was pure, the rivers clear, the people joyous. Yet as the jar sat in silence, something in Pandora began to stir, something that no god's warning could silence. It began as a whisper, not from the jar, but from within her own thoughts. What could be inside? Why give such a gift only to forbid it? Surely the gods would not punish one who merely sought to understand their will. Curiosity. The spark placed in her by Hermes, nurtured by Athena's wisdom, fanned by Aphrodite's longing, grew stronger with each passing day. She would find herself staring at the jar for hours, tracing its golden patterns with trembling fingers. Sometimes she thought she heard faint murmurs from within, a sigh, a heartbeat, a whisper too soft to understand. The jar began to haunt her dreams. She saw visions of light spilling forth, of voices crying out, of shadows swirling beneath its lid. Each morning she awoke with her heart racing, her hand reaching for it before she even realized. And always, Zeus's words echoed in her mind. Do not open it. But curiosity is a flame that cannot be smothered. And though Pandora tried to resist, though she told herself that obedience was safety, she could not escape the pull, that sweet aching need to know. The gods had given her beauty, grace, and wit, but in their divine cunning, they had also given her the one thing that could undo them all, the insatiable, human hunger for truth. And so the jar sat there, gleaming, waiting, whispering, and deep within her heart, the first crack of temptation began to form. Part 4. Life Among Mortals. When Pandora descended from Olympus, she did not fall like a star. She drifted as though carried by a divine breeze. The air shimmered around her, and the earth itself seemed to pause. Flowers turned toward her as she walked, rivers hushed, and the first humans gazed upon her in awe. Never before had the mortal world seen such grace, such beauty, such life woven into form. Epimetheus, the brother of Prometheus, was among them, a titan of gentle heart and simple wisdom. He had been warned by his brother before the chains and the eagle, before the fire and the fury. Epimetheus, beware the gifts of Zeus, for his kindness always hides a curse. But when he saw Pandora, all warnings faded like morning mist before the sun. She was light itself, laughter made flesh, innocence in human form. Her eyes held the brightness of dawn, her voice the calm of twilight. And though she carried the weight of divine purpose, she knew only curiosity, only the joy of living. Epimetheus opened his arms to her, and the two became inseparable. Together, they built a home among the green valleys and soft hills of the mortal world. Pandora tended the hearth, learning the ways of humankind, her laughter echoing across the meadows. Epimetheus taught her of the earth, how to sow grain, how to call fire, how to listen to the voice of the wind. For a time, it seemed the world had found balance. The humans, blessed now with fire, grew stronger, wiser, happier. The nights no longer belonged to fear, and the days glowed with promise. Wherever Pandora walked, flowers bloomed brighter, and children followed her, captivated by her kindness and beauty. Yet even in this peace, there lingered a shadow, a faint glimmer of unease. In the corner of their home, resting upon a polished stone pedestal, sat the jar Zeus had given her. It was never far from her sight. Its surface glowed faintly in firelight, the carvings alive with golden flicker. At times, Pandora would feel it watching her. When the wind blew through the doorway, she thought she heard faint murmurs. Soft, pleading, sorrowful. She would turn quickly, but the jar remained still, silent, innocent. Epimetheus noticed her unease and tried to comfort her. "Do not worry, my love," he would say. "Whatever Zeus intended, let it remain sealed. We have everything we could ever need." Pandora would smile and nod, but her eyes always wandered back. She could not help it. The jar seemed to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. It was beautiful, terrifyingly beautiful, and she could not decide whether it was a gift or a warning. Seasons passed, and the world flourished. Pandora and Epimetheus became the first couple of humankind, their love shaping the beginnings of families, villages, and stories. They taught others how to build homes, how to sing songs to the stars, how to thank the gods for the gifts they had. But beneath this golden age, something waited. The gods, watching from Olympus, smiled quietly. They knew what Epimetheus had forgotten, that even the most perfect love, even the purest heart, cannot silence the whisper of curiosity forever. And so the world rested in peace, bathed in the warmth of fire and love, while in the shadows of their home, the sealed jar gleamed softly, waiting for the moment when Pandora's hand would tremble and fate itself would awaken. Part 5. The Temptation of Pandora. Days became nights, and nights became echoes of the same haunting dream. Pandora would wake before dawn, her breath shallow, her skin glistening with cold sweat, and always her eyes would turn to the jar. It sat in the corner of their home like a sleeping god, silent and still, yet somehow alive. At first, she tried to ignore it. She would fill her days with laughter, tending the fire, walking among the wildflowers, listening to Epimetheus as he spoke of the stars and the turning of the seasons. But the more she tried to forget, the louder the whisper became. At night, when the wind passed through the cracks in the walls, it carried voices, soft, melodic, sorrowful. "Pandora," they would sigh. "Beautiful Pandora, open us, free us." She told herself it was only her imagination. But deep down, she knew it was not. The jar pulsed faintly in the moonlight. the golden symbols across its surface shifting like liquid flame. When she approached, she felt warmth radiate from it, the kind of warmth that could be comfort or warning. Her dreams began to change. She would find herself standing before the jar in a great dark hall, the walls breathing with shadows. The lid would tremble and light would leak from the cracks, pure, golden light filled with whispers. She would reach for it, heart pounding. But just as her fingers brushed the surface, she would wake. Every night, the same. Every morning, the pull grew stronger. Pandora became quiet, distant. Her laughter faded into thought. When Prometheus looked into her eyes, he saw something new, a question that burned too deep to be ignored. "My love," he said gently, "the gods gave us all we need. Let the jar rest. Its secrets are not meant for us." But Pandora could not let it rest. The question in her heart was greater than her fear. What if inside the jar lay more gifts? What if Zeus had hidden wonders that could lift humankind higher still? Beauty, wisdom, immortality itself. And yet, part of her knew. She could feel it. The danger that shimmered beneath the beauty, the warning that hummed like a distant storm. Still, the whisper did not stop. It followed her in her chores, in her walks, in her sleep. When she closed her eyes, she could see the lid trembling. When she opened them, she could almost feel the breath of whatever waited inside. Days turned into weeks, and still she resisted, until one afternoon when the air hung heavy and still, and even the birds seemed silent. The light poured through the window, landing directly upon the jar. The carvings shimmered brighter than ever before, golden and alive. Pandora's breath caught. Her pulse quickened. She stepped closer. One foot, then another. Her fingers trembled as she reached out. The jar was warm beneath her touch, as though it knew her, as though it had been waiting for her all along. A voice echoed inside her mind. Not cruel, not commanding, but soft, familiar. "Do not fear me, Pandora. I was made for you. You were made to open me." Her heart raced. She hesitated, the world holding its breath. She could hear Prometheus outside, calling her name faintly, but his voice sounded distant, fading like the memory of safety. Her hand hovered above the lid. Fear clashed with wonder, doubt with desire, and in that final heartbeat of hesitation, she whispered to herself, almost pleadingly, "Just one glance, only to see." Then, slowly, trembling, Pandora lifted the lid. Part 6. The Unleashing of Evils. At first, there was silence. A trembling pause, like the universe itself holding its breath. Then, a sound. A low, echoing hiss that swelled into a shriek, ancient and alive. From the jar burst a storm of shadow and flame. Darkness poured out like smoke, swirling and writhing as it filled the air. Shapes took form within it, winged, clawed, and screaming. They darted through the light like ravens through thunder clouds. Pain was the first to escape. A wailing spirit cloaked in red mist. It swept across the land, touching beasts and men alike, and suddenly the world knew suffering. Then came disease, pale and trembling, its breath turning flowers to dust. Jealousy followed, green-eyed and serpentine, hissing venom into the hearts of lovers and brothers. Greed tore through after them, gaunt and golden, its hands outstretched, clutching at everything, devouring everything. Hatred, black as night, screamed as it rose, scattering sparks of war across the air. And behind them, sorrow drifted slowly, a veiled figure weeping tears that fell like rain, soft, endless, and cold. Each one, born from the jar, found its place in the hearts of humankind, and where once there was laughter, now came longing. Where once there was peace, now came conflict. Where once there was light, now lingered shadow. Pandora stumbled backward, the lid still trembling in her hands. She tried to close it. Gods, she tried, but the spirits were faster. They clawed and shrieked, rushing past her, tearing into the world beyond. Their cries echoed through the mountains, across the seas, into the hearts of every living thing. She fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face, calling out to them, begging them to stop. "Go back, please, go back!" But there was no stopping them now. The sky darkened, winds howled, the earth groaned as if wounded. Prometheus rushed inside, his eyes wide with horror. "Pandora! What have you done?" But even as he spoke, he saw the truth. She hadn't acted out of malice, but out of that most human of instincts, curiosity. The same spark that drove Prometheus to steal the fire now burned within her. The jar trembled once more, a faint light flickering inside, smaller, gentler, unlike the horrors that had escaped. Pandora froze, her heart pounding. Something was still within, something waiting. But for now, the damage was done. The world outside was no longer the paradise it had been. Mankind, once untouched by pain or death, now shivered beneath the weight of new emotions: fear, grief, envy, despair. Pandora's cry echoed through the heavens, a sound of anguish so pure that even the gods turned their gaze. She clutched the jar to her chest, trembling, whispering to herself through sobs, "Men, what have I done? What have I released?" The wind answered her with silence. And in that silence, humanity's age of innocence ended, replaced by the age of struggle, of tears, of longing. From that single act, from one woman's trembling hand, the world would forever know both the burden and the beauty of being human. Part 7. The last thing in the box. Pandora's hands shook as she slammed the lid down, the echoes of the escaping evil still shrieking in her ears. For a long moment, silence reigned, heavy, suffocating, a stillness that pressed against her chest. She sank to her knees, her face streaked with tears, her heart pounding with guilt and fear. The world outside was forever changed. Cries of sorrow, the hiss of envy, the whisper of greed, all mingling in a chorus of human suffering. But within the jar something lingered, something small, fragile and trembling. A faint light, soft and gentle, pulsed in the darkness. It was hope, the last and quietest of the spirits, untouched by the chaos that had spilled forth. It fluttered as if testing the world, feeling the weight of the newly born pains and sorrows surrounding it. And yet, it remained, unyielding, patient, waiting. Though humanity now walked a path strewn with grief and hardship, this single, luminous spirit offered a thread of resilience, a glimmer that no darkness could extinguish. Pandora's lips quivered as she gazed upon it, realizing the paradox of her creation. From her curiosity, disaster had come, but from that same act, a light had been preserved. Hope, quiet, enduring, eternal, a gift from the gods that even their punishment could not take away. In the hearts of men, it would awaken in times of despair. In the depth of sorrow, it would flicker like a candle against the storm. In the shadow of loss, it would remind them that the future still held possibility. Pandora rose slowly, holding the jar close. She understood then that while she had unleashed the world's suffering, she had also preserved its salvation. One small trembling light remained, the promise that humanity, though scarred and tested, would never be entirely lost. And so, in the midst of darkness, among the wings of evils that now roam the earth, hope endured. A silent guardian, the last gift from the gods, a beacon in an uncertain world, the spark that would guide mankind through every trial yet to come. Part 8. The Reaction of Zeus. High on the heights of Olympus, Zeus leaned upon his throne, his eyes fixed upon the world below. The winds whispered through the clouds, carrying the distant cries of mortals, the moans of pain and the echoes of hope struggling to bloom amidst chaos. The King of Gods surveyed the scene with measured pride. His plan, long conceived and meticulously executed, had come to fruition. Mankind was no longer naive, no longer sheltered in innocence. They now bore the weight of suffering, the sting of envy, the ache of loss, and the sharp edge of desire unfulfilled. Every joy was tinged with fear, every triumph shadowed by the possibility of disaster. In their hearts, they carried both delight and dread, the duality Zeus had intended, a perfect balance between punishment and growth. Yet even as he watched, a faint stirring caught his eye. The lingering spirit of hope, small and radiant, flickered amidst the darkness he had unleashed. It danced quietly, unnoticed by mortals yet impossible to extinguish. For all his power, Zeus could not undo this final act, the spark that would one day give humanity the resilience to endure, to rise, to strive again. A slow, knowing smile spread across his face. Balance had been restored, the scales of fate perfectly weighted between suffering and survival, darkness and light. Mankind had been tested, their innocence broken, their world transformed. But from this crucible, a stronger, wiser, and more complex humanity would emerge. And so Zeus watched, silent yet omnipresent, a god satisfied not merely by punishment, but by the enduring order of the cosmos. Through suffering and hope alike, the world had changed. And in that eternal change, the will of the gods was reflected, relentless, impartial, and absolute. Part 9. Pandora's Remorse. Pandora wandered the earth, her footsteps tracing paths across valleys and mountains, through villages and forests, each echo carrying the weight of her actions. Her heart was heavy, burdened by the knowledge of what had been unleashed, the evils that now walked freely among humankind, sowing pain, fear, and sorrow at every turn. Every glance she cast upon the world reminded her of her choice, the trembling of her hand as she lifted the lid, the instant when curiosity overcame caution, and the cascade of miseries that followed. Yet in her remorse there was reflection, and in reflection, understanding. She saw the resilience of humanity, how even amidst disease and despair, mortals persevered. How they laughed and loved, built and dreamed, struggled and survived, the spark of hope flickering in their hearts, small yet unextinguished, a reminder that even in the shadow of calamity, life endured. Pandora herself became a mirror of the human condition, a figure of curiosity and fault, yes, but also of courage, adaptability, and the capacity to bear responsibility for one's actions. Her sorrow was profound, yet it carried a lesson, that the world is shaped not just by divine will, but by the choices of mortals, by their courage to endure what they cannot undo. And so she walked, a silent witness to the unfolding of mankind's story, ever aware of the delicate balance between desire and consequence, between folly and hope. In her path, the echoes of remorse became whispers of wisdom, guiding humanity toward resilience, empathy, and the enduring quest to rise above the hardships that she had, unknowingly, set into motion. Part 10. The Legacy of Pandora. Pandora's tale, born from the interplay of divine will and human curiosity, traveled through the ages, carried by poets, storytellers, and the whispers of generations. Her name became etched in memory, a symbol both cautionary and illuminating, a reminder of the perils of unchecked curiosity, the weight of choice, and the consequences that follow even the smallest actions. In villages and cities, scholars and bards recounted her story, each retelling adding depth and nuance, painting her not merely as the bringer of evils, but as a figure of complexity, flawed, human, yet profoundly influential. Through paintings, her image adorned canvases, a maiden with eyes full of wonder, hands poised over the fateful jar, a trembling light escaping amidst shadowed chaos. Through poems and song, her tale resonated in rhythm and verse, reminding mortals that life is entwined with both suffering and resilience. The jar, forever linked to her, became more than an object of dread. It became a metaphor for life itself, a vessel containing both danger and possibility, calamity and consolation, and at its heart, the final gift of hope endured, a flickering ember shining persistently, even in the darkest nights, teaching generations that despair is never absolute, that from every misstep and every sorrow, the potential for renewal remains. Pandora's legacy, therefore, was timeless, a story of temptation and consequence, of human frailty and divine cunning, and above all, a testament to the enduring spark that illuminates even the shadowed corridors of existence. The spark of hope that ensures life, no matter its trials, continues forward. The light within the darkness, from the heights of Olympus to the hearts of mortals, Pandora's story whispers through time, a delicate reminder of the duality that lies within every action, every choice, every spark of curiosity. Her hands, guided by innocence yet touched by temptation, unleashed suffering upon the world. But in that very act, she also ignited the eternal ember of resilience. The evils that scattered across the earth remind us of life's fragility, its pain, and the shadows that accompany existence. Yet the small, enduring light of hope, trapped within the jar, illuminates the path forward, showing that even in despair, there is the possibility of renewal, courage, and perseverance. As we reflect on her tale, we recognize the paradox at its heart, that curiosity, while dangerous, is inseparable from the human spirit, that mistakes may bring suffering, yet they also offer wisdom, growth, and the strength to endure. In every act of hope, in every moment of persistence against adversity, we honor Pandora, the first woman, whose fateful choice reminds us that light can emerge even from the deepest darkness. From her hands came suffering, but also the strength to endure it, and so every time we hope against despair, we honor the woman who opened the box.
And that's it for today's story, the tale of Pandora's box. I hope you enjoyed listening and maybe even felt a little of the magic and mystery behind this ancient myth. If you liked it, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe, because this really helps me a lot. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye bye!